Hundreds are feared dead after reports of chemical weapons attacks in the rebel-held areas on the outskirts of Damascus. A warning now, the images of the aftermath of these attacks are distressing. Opposition sources say that the chemical shells were fired from government bases overlooking the capital. The Syrian regime has accused its opponents of fabricating the reports, and there has been universal international condemnation. The UN Security Council is to meet an emergency session within the next few minutes. Well, I'm joined now from Washington by Marie Harf, Deputy Spokesperson for the US State Department. Ms. Harf, tell me, does the US accept that this is a chemical weapons attack?
Well, we do, and I think you saw very clearly the White House come out today and say that we're deeply concerned by reports that hundreds of Syrian civilians have been killed in an attack by Syrian government forces, including the use of chemical weapons. So clearly there are still a lot of facts to be ascertained here. That's part of what we're doing right now. But we have called on the Syrian government to allow the UN inspection team that's on the ground right now to fully investigate this latest allegation of chemical weapons use.
And you know as well as I do that they're very likely to obstruct that, and obtaining hard physical evidence from the ground in Syria is likely to be very hard. You've seen the pictures, we've seen the pictures. It seems pretty indisputable that chemical weapons have been used here. And President Obama said a year ago, if they are, that will be a red line crossed. So if that red line has been crossed today, what will the US do now?
Well, I've seen the pictures and they're horrific. You're absolutely right. And what we're doing now is saying that if the Syrian government has nothing to hide, then they need to allow inspectors in. I think that a few months ago, when the president and the national security team announced that we had determined chemical weapons had in fact been used, we talked about the red line. We talked about increasing the scale and scope of our assistance. We're going to keep gathering all the facts here and make determinations about what comes next. You mentioned the Security Council meeting, which is about to get underway very soon. Clearly, we support the international community coming together and strongly condemning the use of chemical weapons in Syria.
There's a real danger here that we get stuck into condemnation and waiting for there to be evidence. If you are pretty sure that there has been a red line crossed here, once you've got the proof you need, what will the US actually do about this?
Well, I'd make 2 points. The first is the last time we determined there had been chemical weapons used, we increased both the scale and the scope of our assistance to the Syrian opposition. So we took immediate steps once that review was done. And what we've called on right now is for the UN team that's on the ground in Syria to be able to investigate fully, without interference from the government, this latest allegation. And then they'll make a review. And I don't want to look into a crystal ball about what would come next, but clearly this would be very, very deeply concerning, and we would take next steps as appropriate.
There's a real danger here of US credibility being on the line, isn't there? There's criticism, as you'll know, of the administration for not doing more in Egypt. Now we see it would appear that a red line of President Obama put there has been crossed. If the US doesn't take some serious action, it starts to look rather impotent, doesn't it?
Well, not at all. I would disagree with the premise of the question. I think what you saw the last time we made an announcement that chemical weapons had been used is that we were going to take proactive steps to increase our assistance to the opposition. We're going to keep working with the opposition to help them coalesce on the ground, to increase their capabilities, because, again, we've made it clear that the Assad regime has lost all legitimacy. This latest attack only underscores that.
Marie Harf, thank you very much for talking to us from Washington. And our international editor, Lindsay Hilsum, is here as well. This is a game changer today, is it, what's happened in Syria?
It should be a game changer, but I think that interview with the State Department suggested that it might not be. It looks on the face of it as if we're talking about hundreds of people being killed by chemical weapons, possibly more than hundreds. And yet that doesn't make it any easier for the Americans to know what to do. A red line has been crossed. I don't think there's very much doubt of that. But then what do? Martin Dempsey, the head of the US military, has said there's not just two sides in this, there's multiple sides in this war, and they don't really know which side to be on because there are jihadis, people who are linked to al-Qaeda, on the opposition side. Today is a terrible day in Syria, a terrible day, particularly for the families who were killed. But it doesn't bring us any closer to solving the problems of that war.
All right. Lindsay, thanks very much for that.